Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Course Fundamental of Computers, Course Code 8403, Level DBA. Unit 8, Protecting Your Privacy. Basic security concepts. The first step to good computer security is awareness. You should understand all the dangers that specifically threaten your computer system. You need to know how each threat can affect you and prioritize them accordingly. This lesson introduces you to some of the most common threats to your privacy, data, and hardware. In this unit, you will get to know how to protect yourself and your system. Threats. The entire point of computer security is to eliminate or protect against threats. A threat is anything that can cause harm. In the context of computer security, a threat can be a burglar, a virus, an earthquake, or a simple user error. By itself, a threat is not harmful unless it exploits an existing vulnerability. A vulnerability is a weakness, anything that has not been protected against threats, making it open to harm. Degrees of harm. It's important to realize that threats and the harm they can cause are a matter of degree. If you don't use antivirus software, however, there is a very good chance that your computer will become infected, especially if it stays connected to the internet. Because you can gauge the degree of harm that different threats can cause, you can prioritize them. That is, you can decide which threats are more likely to get you and take precautions against them. When people think of the ways their computer system can be damaged, they may think only of damage to the hardware or the loss of data. In reality, computer systems can be damaged in many ways. The user is part of the computer system. You too can suffer harm of various kinds, from the loss of important data to the loss of privacy to actual physical harm. When protecting your computer system, it pays to think in the broadest possible terms about the types of harm that could affect you. A nasty virus or hacker can wipe out your programs as well as your data. If your PC is connected to a network, other systems on the network could suffer similar problems. Damages to your home or office, such as a fire or flood, can easily extend to your computer and everything stored on it. Countermeasures. A countermeasure is any step you take to ward off a threat to protect yourself, your data, or your computer from harm. For example, regularly backing up your data is a countermeasure against the threat of data loss. A firewall is a countermeasure against hackers. There are two classes of countermeasures. The first shields the user from personal harm, such as threats to personal property, confidential information, financial records, medical records, and so forth. The second safeguard protects the computer system from physical hazards such as theft, vandalism, power problems, and natural disasters, or attacks on the data stored and processed in computers. Threats to users. Loss of privacy. Many of the companies you deal with every day, from your local supermarket to your insurance company, maintain databases filled with information about you. You might expect these firms to know your name and address, but you might be surprised to learn that they know how many times each month you put gas in your car or buy a magazine. and a lot of companies do not keep this information confidential. They may sell it to other companies who are interested in knowing about you. Personal information is a business commodity that supports a huge shadow industry called data mining. Data mining is a business intelligence gathering process that every large organization, from banks to grocery stores, employs to sift through computerized data. Online spying tools. Software developers have created a number of ways to track your activities online. Although many of these tools were created for benign purposes such as helping legitimate webmasters determine who visits their sites most often, they are also being used in ways most consumers do not appreciate. Cookies. A cookie is a small text file that a web server asks your browser to place on your computer. The cookie contains information that identifies your computer, you, and information about your visit to the website. For instance, the cookie might list the last time you visited the site, which pages you downloaded, and how long you were at the site before leaving. If you set up an account at a website such as an e-commerce site, the cookie will contain information about your account, making it easy for the server to find and manage your account whenever you visit. Spyware. The term spyware is used to refer to many different kinds of software that can track a computer user's activities and report them to someone else. There are now countless varieties of spyware programs. Another common source of spyware is internet advertising. Some types of spyware operate openly. For example, when you install and register a program, it may ask you to fill out a form. The program then sends the information to the developer, who stores it in a database. When used in this manner, spyware type programs are seen as perfectly legitimate because the user is aware that information is being collected. Although the availability of your private information might be troubling, the consequences for most users is something called spam. Spam is internet junk mail. After all, your email address is often included in the personal information that companies collect and share. The correct term for spam is unsolicited commercial email, UCE. Almost all spam is commercial advertising. You might think that the answer to spam email is simple. Just delete the messages when they arrive. But for many computer users, spam is much too big a problem for such a simple solution. The real solution to spam, therefore, is to control it before it reaches all the people who don't want it. Threats to hardware. Threats to your computer's hardware involve incidents that have an effect on the operation or maintenance of the computer. They range from such routine things as system breakdown and misuse to malicious actions of individuals, including theft and vandalism of the equipment. Disasters such as fire and flood are also threats. Power-related threats. Your PC is busy writing data to the disk and the lights go out. Is everything okay? Maybe so, maybe not. It's vital to know for sure if anything was damaged. Other power problems of a similar nature would include brownouts, voltage spikes, and frequency shifts. All can cause data problems, particularly if they occur when data is being written to disk. Data in memory generally does not get corrupted by power problems. It just gets erased if the problems are serious enough. brownout. Lower voltages at electrical outlets, usually they are caused by an extraordinary drain on the power system. Voltage spikes. Temporary voltage increases are fairly common. Frequency shifts. While infrequent, if the line frequency varies from the normal 60 Hz or 50 Hz in some countries, the power supply on the computer can be affected, and this in turn can reflect back into the computer, causing data loss. Theft and vandalism. Hardware theft is referred to the act of stealing computer equipment, whereas vandalism is the act of defacing or destroying computer equipment. Unfortunately, it is very difficult to prevent both theft and vandalism for one piece or set of hardware. Hardware vandalism can take form from someone aimlessly smashing computers at an institution to someone cutting a computer cable. The people who are mainly at risk in this area are organizations that house many computers and people with mobile devices, as the size makes it especially easy to steal. Natural disaster. Disaster planning addresses natural disaster and man-made disasters. It is not called disaster prevention because things like earthquakes and hurricanes are hard to predict and impossible to prevent. However, you can plan for them. A well thought out plan can minimize the loss of information and interruption of work should a disaster occur. Because natural disasters vary by location, your first step is to make a list of all of the disasters that you think could happen in your area, then prioritize that list. For instance, no matter where you live, fires at home are more likely to happen than tornadoes. Even though tornadoes are more destructive, you should have plans for handling the more frequent disasters. No matter what disasters you include in your list, your countermeasures should include awareness, anticipation, and preparation. Threats to data. The purpose of a computer is to process data in some way to create information. The goal of computer security is to protect this process because data and information are intangible. This mission is difficult. Despite this, you should try to protect everything of value from every threat you can identify. There are three general categories of threat: malicious code and malware, criminal acts, cyber terrorism. Malware, viruses, and malicious programs. The term malware describes viruses, worms, Trojan horse, attack applets, and attack scripts. These virulent programs represent the most common threat to your information. Viruses are pieces of a computer program that attach themselves to host programs. Worms are particular to networks, spreading to other machines on any network you are connected to and carrying out pre-programmed attacks on the computers. Trojan horses, like their names say, introduce malicious code under the guise of a useful program. Another form of malware is an attack script that is specifically written, usually by expert programmers, to exploit the internet. Another threat is posed by Java applets that hide in web pages. They are launched when the user's browser visits the website. Cybercrime. Computer crime is aimed at stealing the computer, damaging information, or stealing information. Computer crime is not necessarily technical in origin. most criminal acts against computers do not directly involve technology. In fact, most of the computer crimes reported involve simple hardware theft. Hacking. Hacking remains the most common form of cybercrime, and it continues to grow in popularity. A hacker is someone who uses a computer and network or internet connection to intrude into another computer or system to perform an illegal act. This may amount to simple trespassing or acts that corrupt, destroy, or change data. Cyber terrorism. Cyber warfare and cyber terrorism are new forms of warfare. They attack the critical information infrastructure of the nation. The conventional goal in the case of cyber terrorism is to harm or control key computer systems or digital controls. It is done to accomplish an indirect aim, such as to disrupt a power grid or telecommunications. Typical targets are power plants, nuclear facilities, water treatment plants, and government agencies. However, any site with network-based monitoring and control system is vulnerable if it is hooked to the internet. Avoiding identity theft. Identity theft happens when someone steals your personal information to commit fraud. The identity theft may use your information to fraudulently apply for credit, file taxes, or get medical services. These acts can damage your credit status and cost your time and money to restore your good name. Keep these tips in mind to protect yourself from identity theft. Don't share personal information, birth date, social security number, or bank account number just because someone asks for it. Pay attention to your billing cycles. If bills or financial statements are late, contact the sender. Use the security features on your mobile phone. Update sharing and firewall settings when you are on your public Wi-Fi network. Use a virtual private network if you use public Wi-Fi. Review your credit card and bank account statements. Compare receipts with account statements. Watch for unauthorized transactions. Store personal information in a safe place. Install firewalls and virus detection software on your home computer. Create complex passwords that identity thieves cannot guess. Change your password if a company that you do business with has a breach of its databases. Protect your computer and your data. Threats to your data are numerous, but the most ominous threat comes from malware in its various forms. Viruses, worms, Trojan horses, and others. Viruses, in fact, are such a significant problem, and to prevent from this problem, install a decent antivirus and anti-spy software. Restricting access to your system. Aside from viruses, disk failures, and natural disasters, the worst thing that can happen to your data is when someone else gains access to it. And it doesn't take a professional hacker to ruin all the data on your PC. A member of your own family can do it just as well, if unintentionally. This is why it's critical to restrict access to your system to keep other people away from your data. Following steps must be considered in order to protect your computer and data. Keep up with system and software security updates. Enable a firewall. Adjust your browser settings. Password protect your software and lock your device. Encrypt your data. Use VPN. Fire. Temperature extremes. Electrical issues. Thank you. That sums up the 8th unit.